sector is clear.
Give us everything we got! All wings.
Improvement number 1, a more dynamic cinematic canon storyline. As much as we love the original Battlefront games, their stories were never canon. This storyline is canon to the current universe, to the official Star Wars universe, and if you are any fan of the new Star Wars universe, Star Wars Battlefront 2's story mode ties in perfectly to the mythos between episode 4, 5, and 6, especially if you read Infernal Squad, which takes place between Rogue One up to episode 6, and that this game takes place after, in the 30-year time gap, showing events and characters lining up perfectly for what we will soon see in The Force Awakens. Where the other stories were just journals of the 501st Legion, this one you see your favorite Star Wars characters, you see everyone in what they're doing. Their characters are already known to us, so when we see familiar characters, we don't need to be brought up to speed with who they are. The only characters in this campaign mode that are of any necessary learning is Iden Versio and Del Meeko, which those two are the two shining characters of this campaign mode. And then when you add in the old characters like Luke, Leia, Han, and when you add in Kylo Ren at the end to tie into The Force Awakens, this story mode is something we could see in a Star Wars film, but it's given to us in video game form. This story mode feels like a Star Wars story. It feels like a Star Wars film that we never got, but we will continue to see in further Star Wars games. That is one improvement over the original, that this story is very thematic and cinematic on every level. Improvement number 2, which this is very significant, is the improvements to the hero characters, the improvements to their gameplay. Compared to the original Battlefront 2 at the time, the original Battlefront 2, yes, the hero gameplay was fun, it was cool to go around and playing as our characters, but when you saw that the control schemes for each character is kind of repetitive, to sometimes to a fault, but very fun, you know, no doubt that it's fun going around slaughtering different enemies as your characters. But in this one, and like in 2015, they gave each character their own powers, their own abilities tailored to them, their own movesets, their own ways of how they can be used, both attack, defense, or a balance of the two. That is where the improvements have shown for the hero characters. You have characters like Luke Skywalker, who he's a balanced character. He's a defense and an attacker. You can use him in both ways, both with force push, force slash, force repulse. Other characters like Rey, who she is very defensive with a slight bit of offense. Kylo Ren is all-out offensive like Darth Maul. Darth Vader you have to use conservatively, and with the Emperor he is very defensive. And you have offensive characters with the guns like Boba Fett, Han Solo, and Chewbacca. Every character has their distinct styles and their distinct gameplay mechanics. Yes, the control schemes are kind of the same, but due to their differences in powers and abilities, and how to use them at the right moment and place, can truly change the game if you're playing as a hero this time around. Instead of just going around gunning people down or hacking and slashing, your character can make a huge change to the battlefield, like you could in the original, but here the sense and accomplishment of dominating with a hero is far greater. Improvement number 3 is the return of the character classes system from the original Battlefront 1 and 2, where the first 2015 Battlefront didn't have this. This one returns us to class gameplay and using battle points to unlock them. Just like in the original, they have brought over key components from the original game into this one. You have battle points you need to earn. You have, this time, actually a little bit more customization. Not character customization, but weapon customization. You can actually customize the weapons tailored to the class itself. So you can customize your own heavy, assault, officer, recon, and different ships, different special ships that you could call on, like an AT-AT Walker, an armored assault clone vehicle. And every weapon is upgradable with different attachments. Each weapon has their own strengths and weaknesses tailored to the classes. And in multiplayer, you will see characters and other players using different classes to their advantage, despite what weapon they choose, what attachments they have to their weapon, and sometimes the attachments can completely change the power of a weapon. Instead of making yours a standard blaster, you can equip an attachment to make it also an ion cannon to take down vehicles. You can improve the sights, you can add night scopes. And this customization carries over to the heroes, which hero customization is getting better and better as time goes on. You really don't feel the power of the star card system all that much, and I've proven time and time and again they can be completely ignored and you can still play the game. Even my buddy who I play with all the time, Kevin, he can see that whoever bitches about the star card system just needs a reason to bitch. So that's just how it is. But I'm glad that the return to the classes have vastly improved the second game versus the 2015 version. Improvement number 4, that the multiplayer is much more dynamic and cinematic than the 2015 version, and slightly more than the original Battlefront 2 and Battlefront 1, because online modes then had very basic vanilla modes, though very fun. They were very fun and they played with our imagination. But for today's gamers, and especially to those of us who did play the original Battlefront 2, we can admit that the multiplayer this time around is much more in line with stuff that could happen in the films. They feel like epic battles with objectives, different things for you to do. Push forward, push back, defend, attack, secure positions. It feels like a Star Wars battle, giving you multiple options on how to approach the situation that you need to approach, whether it be attacking defense, or capture and hold, or blowing up an enemy's position, or landing bomb critical strikes, setting charges. Every mode in this game is very dynamic and unique in its own right, especially Galactic Assault and Starfighter mode and Strike. Those 3 modes offer this type of dynamic multiplayer, giving you reasons to try to figure out which class can best fit the situation, which weapons can best fit the situation, and which set of equipment and attachments can best get you through a situation. Especially teamwork. The teamwork here is much more dynamic than it's ever been in a Star Wars game. You could truly know what it feels like to be a squad and a unit in this game. The crackling of blaster bolts, explosions going off everywhere just adds a thematic, dynamic feel to this to these modes. So that is a vast improvement. The 5th and final improvement is space combat. Though it's missing 2 main components, I can admit that: ship-to-ship combat and capital ships conquest type of modes. But where it makes up for is the ship mechanics are improved. Piloting the starships is much better and much more thematic, and then the objectives in this mode are very tailored to what happens in Star Wars. You know, blowing up key enemy positions, flying to the center of something, or flying to the center of a starship or a command position and blowing it up in Star Wars fashion, flying away, you know, watching the things explode, like blowing up the Death Star, which was one of the best things about the 2015 Battlefront, is that it played on the movies scenarios as multiplayer modes. And this mode, and in these combat scenarios in space, feel very close to Star Wars battles in the sky and in the space. But though we do wish for the ship-to-ship combat, but everything else, if they know that they couldn't do, or they chose not to do ship-to-ship combat, they at least made the improvements to the starfighter controls, to the starfighter combat. Space combat compared to the 2015 version, and in some areas the old version, you know, because I have played them enough to know, this one is one of the best representations of the flight combat. It can be fast, it can be fluent depending on your ship of choice. It can be very slow and defensive also depending on your ship of choice, because there's multiple ships, different types of ships for the factions that are fighting in the battles above, and depending on the mission scenario, you will need to find the starfighter of choice and use the starfighter of choice to get through the scenario and battle it out in the air. So space combat, heavily improved, highly improved, and much more better than I had thought it would be. I really thought that DICE didn't know how to make split because the flight controls in the Battlefield games were garbage, and the 2015 one was just mediocre at best. This one is a lot better. It feels real. You can feel the weight of the ship. You feel the weight of the ship you're using. So that is the 5th improvement to Star Wars Battlefront 2. If you disagree, let me know in the comments.